welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. My guests today have biked over to our studio, and that's because they're members of the Alliance for People-Powered Transportation. I'm here with John Garrido, Janelle Black, and Nicholas George. Thanks for being with us here today. So why do you like biking? Why do you enjoy it? Why do you do it?
Well, I do it predominantly because it's cheap and because it keeps me in good physical shape, which I've always had a problem with keeping weight off. And then once I became like a bicyclist, it just came off and it helps me, to just stay slimmer than I was.
What got you started?
Well, my car broke down and I didn't have enough money to buy a new one. So I just lived in town, and so it was, what I did naturally to get to work, and then it kind of stuck. Just seemed to gel, and that kind of became a part of who I am.
Oh. Janelle, how about you? Why do you bike? Why do you enjoy it?
Well, I can't really think of any reasons not to bike. It's good for you. John already talked about how it's cheaper than driving a car. I'm a lot stronger physically. I'm also stronger mentally and emotionally because I bike. When you look at a hill and think, oh, I can't ride up that, I can't ride up that, but then you ride up it, then that's very empowering. And there's no air pollution coming out of my bike. I'm not burning fossil fuels. There's no downside.
So you're being a good person for the planet here as well. No emissions while you're, and it's quieter.
Definitely, and you get to know your community as well.
Probably you get to smell things along the way when the wisteria come out, or the lilacs, yeah? Yeah?
And hear wildlife and
Nice.
everything.
Nice. Nicholas, how about you? Why do you bike?
Well, I bike because I can't help myself, really. It started when I was in grade school, bicycling to school and back, and I have a car, and I prefer to bicycle.
So you're a bike addict.
I'm not sure I'm quite an addict, but yeah, I mean, almost every day.
Why? Where do you go? Why do you? I mean, you've done it all your life, so it's become a habit, I would say, then, in some ways for you. But you must be enjoying it as well.
I actually enjoy the philosophical consistency, where I am not using resources needlessly. I am helping myself stay fit, and I'm just not taking more space than I need to for the errand I'm on or the route I'm riding.
Nor a bigger ecological footprint, the space, not just for the bike, but how many resources you're using in your transportation compared to all of us, because here we are in America using far more fossil fuel than proportionally anyone else on the planet. So you're part of our counterbalance. We thank you for that. What do you folks do? What do you do when it rains? What do you do at night? Do you all live near town? What kind of challenges do you face when you bike?
Well, I ride year round. When it snowed, the big snow of the winter this year, I rode through that, and it was great. I was faster than the cars, actually. They were sliding all over the place, and I just rode past them. I wear rain pants and rain jacket, and there are also helmet covers you can get. And so you just have the right gear, and it's actually kind of fun. You really feel like you've arrived when you ride through a rainstorm to get to work.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
Well, I often ride home in the dark because I will be in town and going to dinner or a movie or whatever, and I live, an hour's ride away behind Alta Sierra. And so I will often ride home in the dark on the side streets, the quiet streets, and I actually love the way I hear things that I wouldn't have heard during the daytime because I'm not focused on seeing as much as I am listening.
So you're going out to Alta Sierra, which from town is mostly downhill. Is that right?
Well,
slightly downhill?
The net is downhill, but there's some ups and downs. But I'm riding the side streets. I'm not riding on the major roads that are busy with car noise or cars overtaking me.
And the both of you, where do you live relative to town, where you do or your work?
I live pretty centrally located. I live by the hospital in Grass Valley, and so it's really convenient for me to bike the places I do to Nevada City and to school because I go to school at Sierra College.
And I live in Grass Valley as well, near Condon Park. And I work about 3 miles away from that. So it's a very short ride. It's actually a little bit too short, I think, because it doesn't keep me quite in as good a shape as when I used to ride from Nevada City to Grass Valley and back, which is a longer ride.
So part of where I'm headed is you've all found joy in this, you're making it work in various ways. When we look at encouraging more people to bike in our area, what are the kind of, let's look at the kind of challenges or obstacles people would have to bike again, folks like myself who biked, back when I was on flatter terrain. I know that one of the first things I think about is from where I live out on Round Mountain, it's a steep downhill and a steep back uphill before I even can get down into Nevada City. So I think about it's going to take me more time. It'll be good exercise, but more time to get to the flatter part of our county. So that's one thing I think of for an obstacle for myself. And there are others. How do you encourage people? What kind of challenges do you find that you've already tackled?
Well, if you start slow, then that's a way that I did it. And I used to feel like bicycling from Grass Valley to Nevada City was a big bicycle ride, and now I can do that like 3 times in a day, and it's not much at all. And I've noticed that just the more you ride, the more your body becomes accustomed to riding and the stronger you get.
I also think that the hard part is getting started, and it really is you that you're overcoming. The hills are difficult, but it's more of a mental challenge than a physical challenge. And we all have a tendency to make excuses and not want to get going on things if we think we might be uncomfortable, if they might be difficult. And you just have to get out there and get started. And take it one step at a time and pace yourself.
You all nodded when you talked about it starts here.
The mind.
It starts here.
Yeah.
All of you.
Mm-hmm.
Nick.
One of the
Nicholas.
things I've enjoyed doing is showing some of my neighbors the routes to ride to town, because there are ways to, when one is getting a little out of breath, to back off, take a route that doesn't require a relentless uphill, or take a route that doesn't require exposure to traffic passing from behind. Because they're used to driving, they don't know how to do it easily. And the savvy bicyclist will know that the shortest way isn't necessarily the most comfortable way. So I enjoy it when they tell me that, gee, that was easier than I thought it was going to be.
So it sounds like maybe one way to get started to make it easier for oneself is to find somebody who bikes and have them at least go with you on the route. I mean, they might live in your neighborhood, but I might invite you over to come and bike with me and give me tips. I'm on a gravel road.
Mm-hmm.
So I will be thinking about what kind of bike do I need to, which does lead me to the next thing about bikes is, are there rentals for bikes so that people can try different styles of bikes? What's happening in that world at this point?
Well, TR2, a bicycle shop that's on East Main and Dorsey.
Say the name again.
TR2 Bicycle Shop.
TR2, okay.
They have a lot of different rentals. And the owner has said that if someone rents a bike and then decides to buy that bike, then he'll take the price of the rental out of the price of the bike. And we also have rentals through the Alliance for People Powered Transportation. We have an extra cycle and a couple trailers for people to rent. And it's
No.
more for hauling things, but it's something to try out as well.
What's an extra cycle? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the extra cycle is a device that was invented by a couple of guys that live up on the North San Juan Bridge, and it moves the back wheel back and puts in an attachment that allows you to carry very long items like kayaks, and it has about a 200-pound luggage capacity.
Why don't we take a moment and look at some folks riding bikes and telling us why they like bikes, and I think we get to see one of those extra
Yes.
cycles while we're at it. Let's watch.
Okay.
I bicycle because I like it and because it made me lose 20 pounds and keeps me in shape, keeps my endorphin levels high. It's good for the environment, saves me probably about $300 a month. I just go to the South Yuba Club, to the grocery store, and to work at different places and just ride my bike.
I think the bicycle is the noblest invention of humankind. You look at appropriate technology that actually has the efficiency to get people where they need to go in a time frame that's compatible with a modern lifestyle. Bicycling is it. Everything else, Prius, biodiesel, whatever it is, it's drawing down Earth's resources, and our children and our children's children will eventually have to pay the price. I ride my bicycle I live about 7 miles outside of town, so I try to do all my errands at once in a big loop, and it tends to be about a 14 to 20 mile loop. I'm lucky because I live lower than town, so I go to town with my saddlebags empty, and then I buy all my groceries, and I go home a little bit heavier.
What's a good way to encourage people to use bicycles for transportation?
Well, I think the gas prices are encouraging people right now.
So what do you think about using a bicycle for transportation?
It's better than driving a car.
It's a car.
Why is that?
No gas money, no DUIs.
You're saving like what, $200 a month?
Would you consider biking to school if there's a safe way to go?
Yeah.
I love how those girls say they would bike to school. That's really cute. Do you find, have you worked with kids to encourage more of them to do biking? I mean, because kids are all over, the distances the kids are having to go is very different here. I mean, the schools aren't just local. I'm just wondering if APPT has done anything with encouraging the kids.
We haven't done a lot with kids yet. I hope to do some programs in the fall with the schools. We had a bicycle safety workshop this spring, and a lot of young people showed up, a couple of teenagers and a couple of kids about middle school age.
Well, that's encouraging.
Now, I had the great satisfaction last year during Bike to Work Week, which was also Bike to School Day, of having, at least 20 kids from Seven Hills Middle School ride a portion of their route to school with me. And being surrounded by kids going to school was just greatly inspiring. I had ridden past the high school and there were no takers, but the middle school, full of kids.
That's encouraging. I hope by the time they're in high school, they're still biking.
That's the intention.
I think I think that's wonderful work to do. Okay, and then let's go to the other end of the spectrum. What are you doing to encourage silver-haired people? I mean, we have a very large senior population, and obviously you're a model for us. You have a few silver hairs. How do we encourage folks who are retired, maybe healthy, may go to the gym for their workouts and so on? How do we encourage them? How do you deal with the question? That's one question. I'll stop there.
I think it's the same issue as it is for everyone. It's overcoming your own mental challenges or your own mental blocks about it. My parents are both 60, and they both ride bicycles. They ride slightly different style bicycles. My mother prefers a more upright, comfort style bike, and she rides shorter distances. My father rides much farther and is a little more aggressive style. But they love it, and they do fine. And
So it's just getting started.
yeah.
Probably.
Now, I think there's another aspect, though. I'm a member of Sierra Express Bicycle Club, which is a local road bicycle club, which is largely composed of retired people. For them, the social aspect of scheduled rides helps give them something to look forward to every week. And periodically, because they ride periodically, I see people who have begun continue to progress.
So what we're seeing here is bikes not only are good for the planet and using less resources and are healthier, but they also can build our sense of community, our bonding together when you've got buddies to ride with, friends to ride with.
And it's not just the people that you ride with, but it's also people that are around you. There's a child that I ride past almost every day on my way to work, and we always say good morning, and sometimes we exchange a few comments. Once he stopped me and said, "Where are you going every day?" You know, and it's a way to make connections with community. I couldn't do that if I was in a car.
So when you think about one of the obstacles that I can imagine coming up in the mind says, you have to structure your life differently in terms of time, I would expect. Because though we may want to go in a car and take multiple errands, you have both, sometimes the need to carry things that have weight to bring your groceries back or what you're shopping for back home. But there's more time involved. So that in our busy lives, I would imagine that's going to be one of the biggest issues, challenges for people who want to think about biking.
Well, it's an interesting issue to think about, because if you think about the time that you spend at the gym or want to spend at the gym, and the time that the extra time that it would take you to bicycle the distance that you would ordinarily drive, it often comes out that you're actually saving time by doing your exercise and your transportation at the same time. And so it's just a different way of thinking about how you structure your life. Sometimes it forces you, or it encourages you to plan your errands so that you make a big loop instead of going here, 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 all over the place. And making plans for if you want to carry something home that's large and heavy, you bring a trailer or rent one from one of us or something like that.
Okay.
Sometimes by the stopwatch, it does take longer. But paradoxically, it feels like it doesn't. Because I think the benefits of the exercise and the sensory pleasure of having seen the dogs and heard the birds and stopped at the coffee shop I've never stopped at before because I wanted a muffin on the way home made it feel like a completely relaxed day. So the measure of time is not simply by the watch.
That's true. That's true. It's about the quality of the experience. You're more fully present than in the little metal box that we go around in and insulate ourselves from the world in. But we're rather in love with it, in Americans at least. It's very hard to give up our convenience, our comfort, I would say, in our automobiles.
I just remember how I used to be when I drove a car around. Being stopped at a stoplight, it was like I was constantly waiting. And I was just it was like I was anxious, like time was stopped, like it wasn't like happening until I got to wherever I was gonna get. Then it was like, oh, okay, now whatever is going on. But riding a bicycle it's like the pleasure is in the journey.
The pleasure is in the journey. It's very nice. Very nice. So what kind of tips can you give to people about what they need to know for safety? Because I'm going to imagine, we don't have a lot of bike lanes in our county, I don't think.
There are two.
How do you learn, how do people think about when they're starting to get up again and bike, about safety?
Well, we have some educational programs that we are offering through the Alliance for People-Powered Transportation to teach people how to ride in traffic safely. There are laws that pertain to cyclists in the California Vehicle Code, and those are there to keep cyclists safe. There's a reason why they're written the way they are. And so looking at those is very important. The League of American Bicyclists is a great resource. They have a lot of information on their website. And they also have a course which we hope to offer up here soon, which is very thorough and about bike safety.
It's important to be safety conscious, and especially when someone is starting again in midlife to bicycle. It's certainly something that they're going to consider. But the other thing to consider is that people in all countries on earth ride bicycles in all conditions: rain, dark, narrower bumpy roads, more heavily traveled roads than we have, and they make the trips again and again and again without dying. So it's important to be safe, but it's more important to get started and become more safe as you get the experience.
Actually, speaking about that reminds me of we got the opportunity to be in Thailand, and there we saw bikes everywhere, easy to rent on any street, and including bicycles in different forms that I think could catch on here. The tricycle kind of bicycle, a pedicab, where the guy was on his bicycle and he can take two people in the little cab. I would imagine taxis like that could catch on here, particularly in the Brunswick Basin or Grass Valley, where you've got different places that people need to go. The other is that I wanted to bring up, because I enjoyed this, is the recumbent. I don't know if any of you ride recumbents here, because they're lower to the ground, but we had an opportunity to ride a three-wheeled recumbent. It sort of drives like a car. It's a different, I know that there's one commuter in our community that has that. I imagine that being so low is going to be a little more of a challenge in visibility for cars to see them. I'm sure the little blinker light is part of it. But what I'm bringing that up is I think that there are more forms for that bike than what we are used to seeing, which probably leads us to say is, what do we have in bikes? Do you want to show us what what equipment you can take with a bike, or should have, or want to have, and that kind of thing? Let's have a bike.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bike tour here.
All right. This is my commuter bike. And if you want a bicycle, the first thing that you need is a bicycle. So I got this bicycle at a thrift store. And there are often bicycles available in thrift stores, or maybe your garage or your neighbor's garage or a place like that. It's important to get older bikes checked out by a bike shop or some other knowledgeable person. Make sure the brakes work okay, things like that. Important safety things. Another thing that's really good is a helmet. You have one of those.
Here, I'll hold this for you.
All right, thanks. And if you bike at night, you need to have a headlight. And this is a small, inexpensive headlight. It's really good for riding in town. It can flash, which helps make you more visible. This is a more expensive light with a battery that is very bright, that I ride on rural roads. Notice I have slick tires on this. This is an old mountain bike with no suspension. It's got the fat tires, but I have slicks on it for riding on the road. And it does real well in the potholed roads in Nevada County and all the gravel roads. I also have fenders for rain and a blinky light in the back, and my panniers where I carry everything. They sit on this rack, and they come off pretty easy, and just carry them around.
Grocery shopping, huh?
That's right. I think they have an 80-pound capacity, which is quite a lot of groceries.
Can get your milk,
Yeah.
even the liquids.
Yeah, definitely.
You said some of the bikes have suspension. This one doesn't. But
This
you
one does
said-
not.
Tell me about that. None of the bikes I've ever had suspension.
Mountain bikes have suspension forks where they kind of bounce up and down. It's like almost like a spring kind of in the fork. Maybe not explaining that well. But modern mountain bikes have suspension in the fork and often suspension in the seat post, which makes your ride more comfortable as you're going over big rocks. That can slow you down when you ride on the road. And it can be a little bit heavy, but this is great for road riding.
And I think you mentioned that, Jana, you have a comfort bicycle. So how is that different from this?
Well, my bike was originally more of a flat, handlebars, and I just wanted to have more comfort and sit back more. So I had the bike shop put handles on that are quite like this. People call those bikes a cruiser bike. So I have half cruiser bike, half mountain bike.
And a lot of times the comfort bikes will have a big squashy seat on it, and you sit a lot more upright on them. So they are often more comfortable for people who are not as used to biking. And a road bike will often have the drop handle
really low.
right, and you lean over a lot farther. And as you get stronger, you're more able to take positions like that, and you're a lot faster in positions like that. But
Just because your wind resistance is reduced.
Right, and you can also, I think you have more power pushing down the pedals in those positions. But that's not necessarily what you're after. If you're just getting started, you might be more happy just sitting upright. Yeah. So I also have a lock on here. It's very important. You don't want anyone else to walk off with your bike. And I also have gloves.
And you have gloves.
Gloves
here.
are great. They help protect your hands from the wind chill. Oh, it might not feel very cold outside when you're walking around, but when you're biking, the wind will go over your hands and it will get quite cold. So these protect your hands, and they also have gel pads in them, or padded palms that helps with some of the hand and wrist pain that people sometimes can experience. And if you do happen to fall, they protect your hands from scrapes.
Nicholas, anything that your bike has that's different that you'd add to this?
Well, no, as a matter of fact, I'll trade it for this bike any day.
You sure about that?
I actually have a few different bicycles, and I do have a curled under handlebar bicycle, which is a little more aerodynamic. But the bicycle that I enjoy riding most around town is the one with tires like this and a frame like this. So this is pretty close to my ideal.
Okay. So any last things that we want to say just in our last minute here to encourage people about biking? Any last thoughts we didn't say?
Bike to Work Week is coming up.
Yes, it's a great time to get started. There is going to be free stuff on Bike to Work Day for bicycle commuters. And yeah, and I would encourage people to contact us at foothillcycling@yahoo.com and ask questions. And if they want someone to ride the route with them, not for them, but with them the first time out, that we are more than happy to find someone to do that with.
And Janelle, isn't Bike to Work Week the 14th through the 19th of May of this month?
Yeah, it's the third week in May.
In every
year,
the third week in May is a time to bike
and Friday,
to Work Week.
yeah, and the last day of that week, Friday, is Bike to Work Day.
Okay.
So thousands of people in the Sacramento Valley bike to work during that week. Scores of people have biked to work during that week last year here in Nevada County. I would like to see hundreds bike to work.
May that be true. May we have hundreds biking to work next on Bike to Work Friday. Thanks for joining us today with our bikers from Alliance for People-Powered Transportation, which is going to be very, very important in our future. I'm Janaea Donaldson, and this is Peak Moment, community responses to a changing energy future. I'm set to go. Where's the bike?